Hey, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Go!
You're watching Dr. Politics.
Good Friday, everyone. We are back. It's been a busy week. A lot of things happening this week, We just found out this morning that Joe Biden took a $5 million bribe, it seems like, allegedly.
Allegedly.
But it brings me to, as everyone knows, one of my favorite former Maryland Republican governors is Governor Agnew. He took about $20,000 in a bribe, and he had to resign. Should we apply the Agnew standards for Joe Biden? Shouldn't Joe Biden resign too?
Then Kamala takes over.
Yeah, I know. But here's the thing. I don't think Camilla can win in November. Then again, neither can Joe. Frankly, we could put up Daffy Duck, and we're going to win, frankly.
But maybe not Donald Duck.
I don't know. Maybe, Donald Duck, could win too.
Yeah.
But, so how's that? By the way, if many of our viewers have a way with dealing with rabbits, I've got a rabbit problem that eats my vegetables. And the rabbits are insane. There needs to be,
But they're so cute, Dwight.
What's that? Yeah, it's funny. I called the exterminator, right? I go, hey, what do we need to do? Can you get rid of my rabbit? She goes, no. But if you catch one, I can give it to my kids as a pet. I'm like, see, you're part of the problem. You are part of that problem. But yeah,
so what, do they have a different policy? They can't. What, you can't kill a rabbit? I mean, or
no? I guess it's hard to kill a rabbit. I guess they're like tribbles, is what they are. Rabbits are just like tribbles. And if you recall, from Deep Space Nine, the Klingon Empire went to war to eradicate every last tribble in the galaxy.
I don't know. Montgomery County is pretty, strict about what you can do with anything that relates to wildlife. I mean, it's just years and years ago. Well, I guess it goes back to the time when we were when my mom was living, in our old house alone there, and we found the raccoons, inside the walls. You can't hire somebody to come and kill them. You basically hire somebody to come and remove them,
catch and release, and
then they take them and they release them somewhere else. That's a big business. I mean, this place, this outfit, I think is based up in Frederick, but they do booming business on kind of relocating the wildlife, the small critters and stuff like that. So yeah, they could probably try to trap all your rabbits, but as you said, they're like tribbles. They're just going to keep coming.
I know. Yeah. And growing up, we didn't have that many rabbits. I never, actually back then we didn't even see so many deer around either. Frankly.
Well, the deer are worse than the rabbits in the sense of I mean, I remember rabbits eating my parents' strawberries, and they finally gave up. But and I see a few rabbits here and there, but the deer are ubiquitous. I mean, just like the geese.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny in Hinduism, right? You're not supposed to kill, but years and years ago, evidently there is a special dispensation to kill deers because deer eat the crop.
Yeah.
So it's okay to kill deer. So I wonder if they got the same dispensation for rabbits too.
Well, and deer can provide a lot of meat, and so there was hunters for the hungry, and deer. But deer do cause a real problem as well, not just with lawns, but in terms of accidents. And they'll just walk across the street, and if you hit a deer, it's going to destroy your car.
Yeah, Actually, one day I was driving in the morning to Goddard. It was sunny, but I think a deer darted across the beltway where right before the IKEA, and somebody hit it, and they just kept driving. The deer was like, I think they just clipped the deer because I think the deer was still alive because I saw its like legs kicking a little bit.
Oh, jeez.
But but I tell you, these animals, they're not cute. They're not, I'm sorry, I'm on the side of the hunter. With in Bambi, I'm rooting for the hunters, frankly.
Well, you just have to keep it under control. I mean, it's just when there's too many deer. And the other thing is we have foxes, and even in McLean, very, very suburban, busy McLean, there's a fox that I'll see through this. It's more than just a neighborhood because it's around apartments and office complexes. I'll see this fox always going around. Cute as can be, but
means I hope you don't see it during the daytime.
no, but I see it at night. I do see the fox at night.
We have coyotes. Don, you probably have coyotes where you are. You're in the country now, more or less.
I haven't. I mean, I've seen foxes. We had a couple of foxes sitting in our backyard about a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
And just kind of mind their own business, just sitting there, not in any hurry to go anywhere. I remember years ago, there was kind of a fox alert in the neighborhood because I think somebody had been walking their dog and they got bit, and so that required that, they went into immediate like rabies protocol.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a woman the other day I saw on the news that got attacked by a fox, and the fox bit her arm, and she got loose, but had to have a rabies shot, a rabies procedure as well.
Didn't Jeff say he had raccoons or foxes in his backyard?
I don't remember.
He had one of them. He had like a den of them.
Oh man!
You know what else I've seen? I've seen beavers. They must come out of Rock Creek or something like that because I see the beavers. They're big, and I heard you don't want to approach a beaver because they're very aggressive. Which I never knew beavers to be aggressive creatures, But yeah.
The ugliest of all the animals that we're kind of mentioning, possums.
Yeah.
Possums, the ugliest, Dan. That snout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like seeing them. Foxes are cute, but
but
hence fox. Right?
But see, foxes don't take out. If the foxes were taking out some of the rabbits, I'd be, hey, yay, go foxes, go coyotes.
I don't know what foxes eat. I saw one, I guess squirrels maybe, or
chickens.
They
chickens, yeah.
I think part of it too is, I mean, you have, like what you said. I mean, this is the thing is about some of this is that it's part of that circle of life, right? Some of them they actually eat things that we don't really want around.
Yeah,
right.
But we have now, a prevalence of homeowners who now have chicken coops.
Yeah,
and I think that's drawing more of the foxes out into some of these places because you can. I don't think there are any real hard regulations about what you have to do in Montgomery County in terms of setting up a chicken coop and whatnot.
You have free range chickens in your backyards, but you better not have free range children.
Yeah.
In Montgomery County.
But we have friends of ours that have had their hen house basically decimated a couple of times.
Yeah. Well, now that the price of eggs have fallen, I know people who were saying that if price of eggs keep going up, people are going to come and raid their hen house for the eggs, in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Even when the price of eggs was, skyrocketed, it still wasn't. It still wasn't, a real good, financially, a good thing to go do your, go ahead and raise your own chickens and your eggs, because the cost of feed and everything like that was so high that you weren't really saving any money. I mean, now that the price has gone back to normal, I don't know how feed prices are.
Is it really normal, or is it still lower than it was?
Well, let's just say it's not as elevated as it used to be. Okay, if the egg prices go down below $1 a dozen, to which is what my wife was paying for them, a few years ago, then I'll say so. But I think our last purchase was like $1.19, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Hey, the $1.25 store can now carry them again.
Yeah.
Although, it's funny, the $1.25 store, they're also having stuff that's more than $1 now, like the other dollar stores.
Well, I mean, Dollar Tree, when they raised their prices from $1 to $1.25, I mean, they kept some at $1. They raised a bunch to $1.25 because costs were going up, and then they have, I guess, aisles. I haven't really been in the stores, but they were going to have like $2, $3, $4 items.
Yeah.
Things to kind of vary at the mix.
They're going after Five Below is what they're doing. I think.
I mean, if they can find goods and they charge $2, I'm sure the profit margin is much better on the $2 item than it is on the $1 item. So,
but I know our viewers love listening to us talk about non-political stuff.
We never know where we're going to go.
That's true. I hope. But by the way, the other thing is, how it used to be anybody could get a car loan. You could have like 3 bankruptcies and they'll still give you a car loan. They've stopped car loans. They've kind of tightened up on doing car loans now. Because you got a couple of people that are saying that because of the high interest rates combination with that, they go, you're going to see repo get in about 6 months, which is going to flood the used car market with a bunch of cars.
Oh, really?
So hopefully we'll see the price of used cars.
Yeah, I mean, car prices have been going down a little bit, but that'll be an interesting thing because, we're going to start seeing student loan repayments, in October.
Yeah,
and we'll kind of get a gauge as to how that's affecting spending and other things there because, studies, everything that people, has been looked at so far kind of shows that all those borrowers who had their payments, suspended during this pandemic and extended by Biden, which it looked like it was going to go on forever. It hasn't. It's probably been good for the economy in a sense because those people haven't really been saving the money; they've been spending the money.
Yep.
Now they're panicking a little bit because all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, we never really thought we'd ever actually have to pay those things back again."
Yep.
So now I got to set aside $200 to $400 a month, to pay that off. Hello, this was your debt.
Yeah.
This was your legal debt. It's like, do not count on the government to wipe everything out. Even if Democrats are trying to pander to those votes, but
it's been 2 years since they've been talking about canceling student debt, right? 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And let's say the average student loan payment per month is $400. Let's say, is that an average?
It just depends upon the size of your loan and the interest rate you had. Because I've seen stories from where like the Wall Street Journal's talked to different borrowers,
sure.
And some people have got loan payments of 157. Others have got them almost at 400. So,
but I mean, let's say it's like $100 a month. If you had taken that $100 a month, put it into a Marcus account, you could have gotten 4.3% interest for the last 2 years. And it's actually, if you referred some friends, you would have gotten 5% for a little while. My point is, if they just set the money aside,
look, how many younger people, okay, and so people who've been carrying this debt, recent college graduates to those that have been out of school for maybe say 10 years or whatever. Yeah. So, or whatever. How many of those people, are disciplined enough to go and take the money that they had been paying to student loans and sock it away, and basically kind of hold it in kind of almost an escrow, until they were able to had to resume again. I mean, if the government was basically saying you didn't have to pay it back for now, and Biden wanted to cancel a debt, which was really pie in the sky, and the courts have shown that was illegal. But you're right. I mean, if they put into the savings account, which depending upon when you started, as interest rates started to ratchet up with the Federal Reserve, you could have had 3-4% interest. At least you could have earned money on your student loan money, and then when it's ready to resume, you'd have a little bit more money than so that helps give you a little extra cushion. It's not a lot of money. I mean, if you're talking about putting away, say, $3,000 and interest in the year would have been another $100 or whatever. It's not a ton of money, but
no,
it's a heck of a lot better than getting to October and saying, oh my gosh, where am I going to get the money for? What just makes me, I don't know, I was going to say crack me up, but this makes me shake my head, I should say, are the stories about these people who say, well, I'm going to have to cut back on, my organic purchases of food, my locally sourced groceries. I can't buy as much coffee at Starbucks. I'm really weeping and crying for you.
You know how much Starbucks coffee is? Venti, which is the big one, or is it the Grande? The very big one. I think it's Venti is the big one, right? It is roughly about close to $6. I mean, if you order on the app, that's what it is. And then they have the audacity to ask, "Would you like to leave a tip?" I mean, like, really? I mean, why am I going to tip a barista? It's not even the barista. It's like a cashier. It's like, and don't get me started on tips and stuff like that, because I've heard supermarkets.
I think we've talked about this at length.
I know we actually went into extra innings just talking about this. But my point is this: okay, it's $5 a day. I will do it because, well, I've got the disposable income to do it. But my point is, if I didn't have the disposable income, like if it was back in the days when I was working for Free Congress NET and I was only making about $35,000 a year, I was not going to be spending $5 at Starbucks. Although back then there was no Starbucks near NET. Actually, we were in a food desert back then over there by NET.
I mean, whatever happened to the whole idea of just kind of bringing your own stuff, bring your own coffee from home or whatever, or just use the coffee at the office, right? Everybody's now gotten used to this, the lattes and all this stuff, right? The cappuccino, the frappuccino, all this stuff. So now we're into kind of designer coffee.
Well,
and
we used to drink coffee at AIM that you would provide us with, and then
remember
Bob Anderson used to add like chocolate.
Look, I mean, how many times, how many different coffee services did I subscribe to over the years initially, where they would just bring in the stuff?
I think Joe Reagan was the best one, Paulo. I'll just say, I'll put my vote in for Joe Reagan.
Remember Joe Reagan?
Yeah. He's a good Republican.
Yes, he is. Was he on the Fairfax Central Committee at one point?
I think so. I think he was from Fairfax. He was a local. He contributed a lot of money.
Yeah. So was Van Morrison of Interstate Van Lines too. By the way, he was actually on your Central. Yeah, he was actually on the Fairfax Central Committee.
Oh, okay.
But and remember Bob Anderson used to take like chocolate milk powder or hot chocolate, add that to the coffee, add cream, and he'd make his own lattes.
Speaking of Starbucks, I did end up buying Howard Schultz's book. I have not started reading it. It just seems a little drab, but
his brother George is funnier, though.
Pardon?
His brother George is funnier.
Oh yeah. Or Sergeant Schultz.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've seen nothing.
My favorite Schultz. Yeah.
He was president of the Schultz Toy Company.
Okay. There's shows. I love Hogan's Heroes, but now that you mention it, they got so out there in terms of, I think it's like, what do they say on TV? It's like the shark moment.
Jump the shark moment, yeah.
This has no credibility. It's like when Sergeant Carter dresses up as Hitler and shows up at Stalag 13. Just things that are just a little too out there. But
hey, what do you call Matthew Broderick and somebody? They did their own version of The Producers, where the musical in the play, The Producers was Springtime for Hitler. But
yeah, the original Producers was hilarious.
But did they also do Springtime for Hitler, or was that a different premise?
No, that was it.
Neil Simon's Producers. I think Neil Simon was the, or was that Rodgers and Hammerstein?
Yeah, I mean, I think the original Producers have Zero Mostel.
Maybe. Hey, Jackie, you got to tell us that. Because she would know. Jackie's a theater person. But
that's true. Yeah, she probably know it off the top of her head.
Yes, and it's it's entertainment. But I hear Broadway is going to go on strike now.
Yeah.
We've got you got the Screen Actors Guild on strike.
Yeah.
You got the writers on strike.
Yeah,
Broadway's.
That's a serious strike. It's going to be affecting a lot of money.
Do you remember what happened the last time there was a strike? Dallas brought in writers from Europe, from England, to rank the season, and that was the season where that was the dream season. That was the strike year. You know, and honestly, somebody was telling me, well, these writers only make about $60,000 to $70,000 a year. I'm like, yeah, 60 to 70. That's not a bad income, frankly.
No, that's not bad. I don't think that's bad.
You choose to live in Manhattan, and make, yeah.
It's tough there, though. It doesn't go as far there, but
right. If you're living in New York or LA or whatever, that's a little rough. But
yeah, because it sounds like a lot of money, and it is nationally. But you're right. If you're in New York or LA, it's probably not.
But I mean, here's the thing. You could live in New Jersey and commute to the city. You don't have to live in Manhattan. But these people, they want to live in Manhattan so they can go to 21 and Elaine's.
I don't even think Jersey's that cheap. I mean, Jersey's also kind of isn't a high tax state. Connecticut. I mean,
Connecticut's a lot more expensive.
They don't have a lot of choices up there in terms of inexpensive living.
Well, I mean, if you lived in if you go to Jersey and you live like in Edison Park or Edison or Hoboken, well, Hoboken's gotten pretty, but what do you call? What's that school?
Cherry Hill. Well, that's
no, Rutherford, East Rutherford, where Rutgers is.
Okay.
That's pretty inexpensive, but
I think Don's right. I think New Jersey's still going to be pretty expensive.
It is. I mean, Maryland's pretty expensive. Northern Virginia's pretty expensive,
Yeah.
$60,000 in Prince George goes a lot farther than $60,000 in Arlington.
That's true, yeah.
I mean, $60,000 in Prince George, you're living La Vida Loca.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, the actors go on strike mainly in sympathy with the support of the writers and everything like that. But I'm not sure exactly what the studios will wind up doing in the end. I guess they'll try to give them a little bit more money, but it's who gets the actors can survive a lot longer than the writers can.
This is what
on an economic basis.
Yeah.
This is what I think the studio should do. Everybody in LA wants to be an actor. Replace them. Hire scabs. Kind of remember the NFL did that, and they broke that players' union strike, in 3 weeks.
And the Redskins did well that year. Remember
with the replacements, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. But it's kind of those strike years are kind of a stain on the game, whether or not it's baseball or football or whatever, because it's just like. Yeah, you bring in those replacement players for football. That was just not pretty.
Yeah.
But I think the daytime people are not on the same unions as the regular actors are, because daytime TV is just going just fine. All the soaps.
I mean, but I think daytime TV. I don't know. I mean, you could probably do a lot of reruns there and just keep things going. And fill that time. I don't think there's a high viewership during the daytime anyway, so you could probably do that. I mean, if this gets prolonged, I mean, I think what the studios wind up doing is they'll look for more, live programming of some sort, reality shows, because if it's unscripted, they don't need a writer.
Yeah, they can do American Idol 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, you could have just a whole slew of things. I noticed that if you look at the streaming services, sometimes as I'm perusing these things, I'm like, what the heck is this? And I look at it, it's like a Korean reality show now, kind of like Big Brother or The Amazing Race type of thing like that. I'm like, okay, fine, I guess. I don't know. That's not something I spend a lot of time on, but if there's one thing that'll probably break my terrible TV habits, it would be this, How much of this would I really miss in the end?
Yeah,
I really don't miss any of the television stuff. I'm back to hating television again, just because I just realized how lazy they are. This last season, Superman and Lois, great show, 13 episodes, and when Lucille Ball was making I Love Lucy, they were doing 30-some shows a season. Tony Danza and Judith Light, when they were doing Who's the Boss, they were doing close to 25, 27 episodes a season. Mm-hmm. Everybody Loves Raymond. That's not that long ago. They were doing about 25, 26 episodes a season. And
which means, I mean, they realize. I mean, those things are costly to produce. and cable television, I think, had a huge impact on broadcast television, the networks, in terms of, what was palatable to them, and you, you could, they were doing fun. They'd have the regular season. They'd run from like September through May.
Yep.
And then you'd run reruns
Yep.
until September again.
Yep.
And that was the pattern forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
And then cable kind of came in there, and they started waking them up a little bit. They bought a lot of the old shows and put them on and got good ratings for Friends and Barney Miller and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when they started creating their own original programming, and started airing that during the summer, whether it was Suits, Burn Notice, all kinds of different shows, all of a sudden the networks are like, oh, wait a minute. It's like, well, people aren't going to watch our reruns. They'd rather go to cable and watch a new program.
The one strike that really got me when I was a kid was the baseball strike.
Which one, the first one or the second one?
I think the first one. And I was a kid. I loved baseball. And what the networks just did was to try to fill that gap. They showed Japanese League baseball games. And I just really couldn't get into that as much. I don't know why. Maybe the different sort of style of play.
Smaller stadiums, That's why. That's how Wade.
I think after the last strike, where we saw some Japanese, but we also saw a lot of Korean baseball league stuff.
That's right.
Because the game has become so much more international. With you've got a star like Shohei Ohtani, and you've got a slew of Korean ball players now in the major leagues.
Yeah.
Now it's now I think it's something that even during the strike, I mean, it's not going to replace a New York Yankees or LA Dodgers type of ratings,
or the number one Baltimore Orioles
fandom. But you could just kind of say, hey, look, there may be some future MLB stars playing there, and sometimes you get some of those old aging veterans from the major leagues that are just like, they're looking to extend their career a little bit.
Is that what Bo Jackson's doing now, Don? Isn't Bo Jackson doing that now?
Is he?
No.
Bo Jackson's can't. I mean, after he had to leave sports because of his degenerative hip, so he can't do anything.
Right.
Yeah, I kid.
He was great. I'll tell you, he was like the first. As a kid coming up, I thought he was like one of the first super athletes. I mean, he was a football player, baseball player.
You kind of wonder what would have happened had this injury, had he not had this degenerative,
because it was a football injury. It was like a basic tackle in that one game, and then from there it went downhill with the hip.
Yeah. And here's
and then he was such a superb athlete.
Yeah, he was.
And just I just always wonder, it's like, what kind of football career would this guy have had?
Yeah.
I mean, he was such an incredible specimen of an athlete.
And remember Deion Sanders, Neon Deion,
That's
played for the Braves, and he played
and
for he played for the Raiders,
and the Falcons and the 49ers.
He played for the Redskins.
And the Redskins, but he wasn't playing baseball at that time. I think he was just doing football.
Yeah. Playing baseball and football, that's tough, because I mean that means that basically you're playing all the time.
Yeah,
you're not getting much time off at all.
And baseball is every day. It's not like football. It's like once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, baseball is pretty intense with 162 regular season games and stuff.
And back then, remember, they had more games back then. They cut the number of games down, if you recall, from where it used to be. I think it used to be like 168.
No, for baseball? Baseball went from 154 to 162, and that's where it's been for the last
I could have swore they actually cut the games down. They brought the number of games. No, they wanted the players. I think at the last strike, they wanted to play fewer games, is what it was. That's
what bothers me about baseball is just any team that's trying to take the model of the NBA and do like load management.
Yeah.
And reduce playing time for some of the stars, so they don't necessarily play like they used to. You don't get a lot of you're not going to see the Cal Ripken, Lou Gehrig type of records, because that's just not the style of play we have anymore. Having the Iron Man, it's now give them some rest and all of these things, and so you can buy a ticket to a game, but there's no guarantee you're going to see the star that you thought you would see.
Yeah.
And it's like like the Orioles. Look at them, number one. They got the Rays number this week.
Mm-hmm.
They are. I mean, Let me tell you, for me, if they lose every single game from here on in, I'll be just happy because they're in first place and they've been there for more than one day. They've been there for like 4 or 5 days now in first place, all alone.
Yeah.
But I think this might be their year. This might be that magical year of theirs where everything just falls into place.
Well, it's been a while, so hopefully they can do it. When was the last time they were?
1983.
83.
1983.
That far, okay.
Yeah.
Well, they made the playoffs since then, right?
They have. And you had that kid from the Yankees who stole the ball out of what's his name's
that's right.
glove.
Yeah, that's right.
And then that kid played for the Orioles farm team, which is funny.
Oh, really?
And he was an Oriole. Yeah, he grew up to be a Baltimore Oriole.
I didn't know that.
Yes. He redeemed himself.
Yeah, I mean, the Orioles will need a lot of luck going forward, but they played great this year overall.
Yeah.
But it still comes down in the end to they've because they were such a terrible team, they've drafted well.
Yeah.
The problem really is that the Angeloses, they are not willing to sign these players.
I know Petey needs to go and take care of business, frankly, because Petey needs to open up his checkbook, and not think about running for U.S. Senate, frankly. Take the billions.
I think deep in their heart, I think the Angeloses, they're like, look, we'll probably make a lot of money this year because we're winning and we're going to draw some more fans, et cetera, whatever. But even if we go back to a 60 or 70 win team, we still make money because of television rights and all that ancillary revenue.
He was bright when the Masson
we don't have to pay up for the Adley Rushmans and the Gunnar Hendersons and all these guys of the world, which would be a travesty for the fans. And the thing is that the owners, kind of like Dan Snyder, it's like, think about the fans. What kind of product are you putting on the field? Yeah. You've got a major league franchise, baseball, football, whatever. Put a quality team up there. Don't do this stuff where you're basically putting up, minor leaguers there because you can make money.
Yeah, and the Orioles, win or lose, they make money.
Right. That's the point. They make money. There's no incentive. I don't really think that the Angelos family is really cares about the fans.
They don't. He's a big lib. He's got that tobacco money. That's how he bought the Orioles, frankly. Can't Major League Baseball force him to sell the team like the NFL did to Dan Snyder? And by the way,
you would need that. You would need that mix of all the, incompetence and misconduct and all the stuff. Dan Snyder was a terrible owner in the end.
He may have been a terrible owner, but let's first of all, good Republican, and I think that's why people didn't like him. Frankly, he was a big supporter of Governor Allen, big supporter of Jim Talon. He supported Republicans around the country. And he did open up his checkbook. He did bring Deion Sanders to Washington. He did bring all these. Yeah, he brought the coaches. He brought in Spurrier, not Duffner. He brought Joe Gibbs back. And by the way, sorry, Redskins fans, but
very often Snyder opened up his checkbook because he bought aging veterans that were past their prime. Yeah. What was the problem?
Yeah. But my point is this:
had some terrible GMs.
Vinny Serrano.
Yeah.
I have hope that the new ownership will decide. Will really take an interest of trying to really build.
But I'm sorry, the new owner seems like a little prick. He says, the stain of Dan Snyder is gone. Sorry, you haven't even played a game yet. You think they're going to be nicer to you when you lose? Have another losing season next year, buddy boy?
That's amazing. He said that. He said that. He said the stain.
Yeah, he said that.
Wow, that's
why he wants. He says, we should change the name because that'll remove the final stain off the. So maybe,
they can change the name, change it back to the Redskins.
I agree. Yeah.
And here's something else.
I agree.
Jack Kent Cooke, who was a racist, who was a vile individual, he got some 19-year-old pregnant when he was like a million years old. Okay, nobody had a problem with the name of the team then. Nobody.
Yeah.
And they had protesters then too. Nobody had a problem with it. You know why? Because he was a big lib. He's a big Marion Barry supporter. He used to give a lot of money to the Barry campaign. He used to give a lot of money to Maryland Democrats and Virginia Democrats. He was an uber liberal.
I mean, I don't think that the politics of the owners really.
I think
is
that's
much of a concern because I don't really see that much, in terms of any of the big sports. It's just that a lot of owners they move a little bit too far and they do things they shouldn't be doing. Do they always deserve to lose their team? So, if the leagues force them to give up the team, I don't necessarily think that's always the right thing there. But most of them have been kind of forced out.
Remember, this is the same league that would
laugh all the way to the bank. They lose their stature as the owner of a big league franchise, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, whatever. But I mean, Dan Snyder, $6.05 billion.
He's laughing all the way to the bank. Frankly, he has made back the money. Squandered.
That's why. The NFL. He's agreed to let the NFL fine him $60 million. Hey, I just took in $6.05 billion. Sure, take $60 million.
And this is like an ownership group. This guy, Josh, he is not the sole owner. He's got like a whole
right. I mean, and it's rare. It's rare in these kind of things when you're talking about this kind of money that you're going to be able to have all the money to do it.
Jerry Jones did that. Jerry Jones had all the money in the world to buy the Cowboys.
But back then it probably wasn't near what it would be today.
It costs
Here's
so
what
much.
I found from techterms.com.
Sweet. It costs so much money now to buy a team.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's another thing.
This is the same NFL.
And you look at the Redskins or the Commanders, whatever you want to call them. I mean, the league also looks at this as, they have a lot of diversity. I mean, you've got Magic Johnson, right? I mean, he's still a name. So
yeah. But you know my theory on Magic Johnson, right? I think that whole AIDS thing was just a PR stunt by the Lakers to sell more tickets because Lakers ticket sales were down. And then he claimed he had AIDS, so everybody felt sorry. And then he came out of retirement, and everybody went to go watch Magic. The reason I say that, and another friend of mine goes, think about it. Arthur Ashe was diagnosed with AIDS the exact same weekend. He's dead.
Yeah.
Magic is still alive.
I mean, it's like it affects different people differently. They get different.
Yeah, especially when somebody doesn't have it, they pretend they have it.
No, I think you're right. It affects people differently. But I didn't know it was the same year as Arthur Ashe.
It was the same week.
Same week. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But Arthur Ashe got it through a transfusion.
Right.
Yes.
So I don't know if that affects it or not, or it was a different type. I don't know.
I don't know. And Arthur Ashe had
as non-medical professionals, we can only speculate.
Yes, we are not real doctors. We just play doctors.
I just play doctors on the podcast.
Yeah. By the way,
Ashe, a Virginian from Richmond. He was from Richmond.
Yeah.
Richmond guy. Mm-hmm. That's sad. I mean, sad he passed away. He was a great player.
Yeah.
That's sad.
But I don't think it was, but then that's just my theory on Magic Johnson. He also owns a lot of real estate in this area too. He's partners with Omarosa. Remember Omarosa from The Apprentice and the Trump White House?
Yeah.
Whatever happened, he had theaters, so he had to help like the Magic Johnson theaters, but I don't know if they survived.
No, they're still around. You know where the Cap Center used to be? Every now and then when I'm down there, you still see his stuff there.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. And
hopefully the new ownership, for the Redskins will figure out what to do about the stadium issue and and all that, because I think playing in Landover is done. I think that's once they locate a site and everything like that.
Remember when they used to call that place Rowjohn? Because Jack Kent Cooke didn't want to call it Landover and scare people.
Yeah.
But you got what is it? The metro is what, like a mile away from this thing?
Yeah, it's not that far. It's not that horribly far, I think. But here's the thing. I think they would have been better. I don't think. What are we going to do with FedEx Field if the Redskins leave? Are we going to move the Ravens in there? It'd be a lot.
No, they got a nice stadium. What about rebuilding RFK? What about doing it at RFK?
There's speculation about fixing up RFK.
Yeah.
If no one wants to take on FedEx, then is it still FedEx Field?
It's still FedEx Field, yeah.
Because I thought FedEx got fed up with Snyder too.
No. You know what's funny is the Ravens start off as PSI Net Stadium when the Ravens first came to town. Then PSI went belly up. Then it was something else. Then became MNT, and that's what they are now, MNT Park or whatever. But
remember the original name for FedEx Field? Wasn't it like the Jack Kent Cooke Stadium or something?
Yep, it was Jack Kent Cooke Stadium. Yeah.
Wow.
And you know what's funny is like Joe Gibbs was also part of the group that was trying to buy the Redskins after Jack Kent Cooke died.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was working with the Cook boys to buy the Redskins, and he was part of that ownership group. Because Joe Gibbs made a lot of money in his NASCAR team. He's built like an empire in NASCAR, frankly.
Well, Joe Gibbs Racing is a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, he's giving
worth like
Roger
$60 million, some huge amount of money he's worth. So
yeah, I mean, he's giving Roger Penske a run for his money. He gave him a run for his money, I should say.
Yeah,
but there was also a lot of stuff in the world of politics. We had the. You also had more hearings. The whistleblowers came out.
Yeah.
And I just find it. I don't know why I'm surprised, but when MSNBC and CNN belittles the whistleblowers, would they be doing this if they were blowing the whistle on Donald Trump, frankly? We found out that the FBI knew it was Hunter's laptop. The FBI lied to us. It's crazy when all the conspiracy theories all come out to be true. So maybe in Philadelphia there was a bunch of fake ballots that came in. Maybe the president really did win in Michigan and Pennsylvania and Arizona. I don't understand. It's like these. Nobody seems to have a problem with this. It's like where is the outrage? Frankly, as our old friend Paul Wyrick would say.
Well, it just shows that elections have consequences because Republicans took over the House. So once they took over the House, they could start pushing these investigations, and now the media has to talk about it. And
they're really not even talking about it though at that point. If you don't watch Fox News, I bet you wouldn't hear much about it. You just hear a bunch of debunking,
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't watch CNN really or MSNBC, but I imagine they still at least have to talk about it. At least have to try to debunk it because it's in the news, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch CNN or MSNBC unless I'm at the gym because that's where they don't seem to get Fox at the gym.
Yeah,
they just have MSLSD on there. But the way these people, the way they've been behaving, it's shameful. I don't know, Don. Have you seen those commercials put out by local television broadcasters? They talk about how we've gotten past the stigma of opinion journalism. I didn't realize they got past that. They just don't care anymore about opinion journalism. Because even maybe it's just because where we live, Don, but the local media in DC is filled with opinion journalists. They can't do a local story without trashing Republicans. You had that guy on WSA. He was a comedian. They brought him in for the morning show, and he was basically trashing Republicans left and right all the time in the morning show. Nobody, it's like, what's going on with you people here?
Was that guy named Reese or something like that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think he's still on WSA 9. Reese something or another. But he's still on, I think. He still has a show, I think, in the evenings in the old Wheel of Fortune time slot. But it's, local media. I mean, Don, you know this. You've seen this. You've seen them be a bunch of lefties, sycophants to back from the days of General Westmoreland in 60 Minutes, And I think even Mike Wallace would blush with how in-your-face the liberal biases are today.
Yeah, or just on NPR. I occasionally listen to NPR. I subject myself to that. And it's really so bad, even if they call it straight reporting. And I learned new terms, over-policing. I didn't know what that meant. That meant there's a bad neighborhood and a lot of police. It's over-policing.
Over-policed.
Yeah, that's what they call it. If you're a victim of crime, you're not going to say that's over-policed.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, crime is out of control, even in Montgomery County, right?
Yeah.
There, you got carjackings, all everywhere from Bethesda, Silver Spring, Chevy Chase, all the way to Germantown, and so on. And it's
Even a
basically,
nice Chevy Chase.
I mean, this is all about, basically soft on crimes policies by the Democrats, and they don't even care. They really don't care.
Yeah.
You know.
So normally there's complaints about the fact that you don't there's not enough police when you need them right in the
Yeah.
area. Now what you're saying basically is that there's also complaints about saying like there are too many police for
Yeah.
this area.
Yeah.
We're overprotected.
Yeah. Yeah.
I tell you, we're headed to a RoboCop utopian society. Where corporations will take over cities and they'll hire RoboCop to protect you.
Just use artificial intelligence and some kind of robot or something like that.
But
Yeah, why not?
going a little bit back to our writer's strike and actor strike, can we not use AI to write these scripts? I mean, it can't be any worse than what here's it. The writers, they're not coming with anything original. Everything is just a remake of something else. They're not. There's no original stuff out there. Like in the old days, you'd have some original stuff, but now everything's like, oh, let's make Rockford Files into a big screen movie. Let's make this into and they take a couple of plot twists from the TV series and they find out what's going on, But
well, there's a lot of television that's really based on what spinning off one program to another, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Dick Wolf has made an entire career out of, these series. I mean, you have Chicago, Med, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD.
Those spin-offs of Chicago Hope?
All his Law and Order things, the FBI stuff on CBS.
Yeah.
They're just variants of the same thing and just put them in different places.
Yeah.
Yeah. CSI, the NCIS series. I mean, you just take the one idea and you say, okay, we've got one, like in DC, we got one in LA, we're going to put one in Hawaii, whatever. And
how to say either, I'm not sure which, something, I think I saw it on Comedy Central, but they did a parody, CSI Mayberry.
I noticed with streaming that I guess there are some of these things that are that are out there in streaming form that aren't there on television on broadcast television anymore, and I'm like, oh, okay, so this is how you watch this program. I think I've had my fill of the NCIS versions or the CSI versions.
By the way, I would watch CSI Mayberry.
Didn't they do that with? I think they have another version of Criminal Minds, but it's in a streaming format.
Yeah, they also have then you had NBC had that show. I think it's still on. You had Law and Order SUV, Law and Order Crime and Punishment, Law and Order something.
Yeah, they've got. I mean, you have the basic Law and Order. Then
Law and Order
the
CVS,
SVU, which is Special Victims Unit, and then you've got the other one, which is like criminal something. I mean, it's all about like the mob bosses, crime, syndicates or something like that. Organized. I guess it's organized crime or something. Anyway,
I mean, NBC's working on CS, Law and Order CVS about all the people stealing from CVS, and they're doing an entire show dedicated to shoplifters at CVS.
How about just Law and Order San Francisco?
Do they have a Law and Order? Is there a Law and Order San Francisco?
They could spend all their time in the Walgreens, the CVS's, and the Whole Foods.
Yeah,
and all the retail crime going on there.
Yes, and for the season one, they could do their season premiere episode. They could do a mob robbery at the Nordstroms.
Yeah.
But do you remember back when we used to joke how that's how people behaved at a white sale at Penny's? All the people would like line up outside, like it was Black Friday or something like that. They'd all run in and start, getting stuff. They wouldn't be stealing; they'd just fighting it, taking stuff out of other people's hands and stuff like that because they got to get the bed sheets and stuff. But
that's the way it used to be. I mean, it was kind of like that for for that store that's no longer around, which was Filene's Basement.
Yeah.
Are they not around anymore?
They went bankrupt, but that was a store that I guess the female shoppers would just. It was
That's
like a
right.
mob.
They did the wedding dress thing, right? Filene's.
They all kinds of. They had limited amount of stuff, and people they would just get mobbed, and people were basically fighting over stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's there was actually an episode of
You used to have lines out the door for Tuesday morning when we had when it was just a starting up here in the area.
Are they still around?
They filed for bankruptcy and they're complete in liquidation now.
Oh wow!
Hmm.
Tuesday mornings, you know.
Yeah, I visited.
I've never been to a Tuesday morning, but I've always when I drive by, I'm gonna stop in to see what they sell.
Okay, so I mean, my wife and I had shopped at Tuesday morning. You know,
what did they sell? Was it like a linen store?
And they used to only be open like 2 or 3 days a week.
Really?
So that was one of the other things is that you could only shop on a certain days of the week when they had certain stock. Eventually they became this discount retailer, and they were open all the time. But the last one I visited was in my daughter's area in Evansville, Indiana, and you walk into this place and it's like. This is like the lowbrow of the lowbrow stores at this point.
Oh, so it's not like I always thought.
Does anybody shop here?
I always thought that was like a linen store, like linens and things. So it is not a linen store, huh? Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just stuff. Some stores need to go. It's just part of it. I don't mourn for these stores.
Well, I tell you, there's a store I wish would go out of business, but they haven't. Is J.C. Penney. They seem to always be getting new life breathed into. They've got more lives than a cat, frankly. Does anybody go to J.C. Penney? Do they even have any J.C. Penneys around here? I think the last one was in Lake Forest. Maybe the last one.
I mean, do they even have much of a retail operation anymore?
Well, God knows their catalog business has been defunct. Remember, they also used to do a lot of catalog sales too, like Sears and Montgomery Ward.
So the J.C. Penney has stores, and they still have one over in Wheaton.
Do they?
Columbia and Sterling. So.
Huh. Yeah, there is one in Columbia by the mall. Yes, I do remember driving by that. But it's funny. Even Nordstrom's are shutting down stores. Like Nordstrom's and these high-end retailers are shutting their doors. Macy's, is shuttered a lot of their stores. What, Susan? J.C. Penney is
interesting because several years ago, I mean, they were calling the death of retail. The online sales were going to kill all those bricks and mortar stores, and it didn't happen. I mean, those stores have come roaring back to an extent, but there is kind of a ceiling, I think, in terms of how much of a store people really want a bricks and mortar for some of these things.
I mean, look at Kohl's. They're also teetering, And Kohl's started off as a grocery store.
Oh, I didn't know.
Kohl's is struggling. I mean,
remember Senator Kohl?
Yeah,
that's his family.
Yeah,
I mean, they sold that off now. I mean, it's owned by someone else.
Yeah, I mean, they used to sell televisions and VCRs and microwaves.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I think Sephora bought them out now because I think didn't Sephora buy them?
No, I mean Sephora. They struck a deal with Sephora to put in-store Sephora stores in there. They were trying to find a way to draw more shoppers in. They did that, and they also did the Amazon returns as a way to get people into the store.
I know.
And
they give you a 25% coupon if you go in there, but it's only good of that day. So when they give you a quarter off, it's like you feel like, hey, I should buy something and not waste this 25% off, even though you don't want to buy something, which I think is a smart move on their part, frankly.
Yeah.
And they stick the Amazon returns all the way in the back, so you got to go all the way through the store.
I mean the one over in the Rio, I had to use it one time, and
they're in the back.
It was on the second floor. Yeah. You had to take the escalator up and up there. It was extremely efficient, though. I will say
they are. But now I just do a lot of returns to the Amazon store over at Chevy Chase Lakes, Amazon Fresh there.
Oh, you can do that there.
Oh yeah, and they and once you do it there, they refund the money to your account right away as soon as they get it. Opposed to like when you used to give it to Kohl's, it would take them a couple of days to issue the refund. But
yeah, I got stung by going to the UPS store, and they had scanned the thing, and sent something back, and Amazon claimed they never got it, and of course I couldn't find my UPS receipt, and I'm like, ugh.
And it's I mean, I don't like using the UPS store, frankly. I think their online sucks, frankly. And I'd rather use FedEx or even have read USPS if it's not that important,
Yeah, but for me, the UPS store is about a little over a mile away from the house.
Mhm.
I just, you just have to learn. As I learned, when they give you the receipt for what they've scanned in when you return the merchandise on the return, you better hold it until Amazon has said that you've now got a full credit versus the temporary credit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That Amazon Fresh store. I mean, I was waiting for the one up in Gaithersburg.
Is that not opening?
It's never going to open.
Maybe
They're not. Yeah, that store, they built that store out. I think there's even one or two EV chargers in the parking lot, but the store is.
they came in with a home Office Depot.
They put the signage up.
Yeah.
And then they took it down.
That's over where the what do you call it? Office Depot used to be, right?
That's right. They took over the old Office Depot, right?
Is Office Depot gone? Because I've noticed more and more of their stores are like there was one.
They shrunk. I mean, they've merged together, with Office Max, and they're still around, but there's not. It's like Staples. They're not as many as they.
There's only two Staples stores I know of. One on Rockville Pike, and one on Georgia Avenue, all the way up by Stained Glass Pub. Those are the only two. Because there used to be a Staples.
I think there's one in German. I think there's one in Germantown.
Really? Okay. Because there used to be a Staples by Goddard.
Next to the Target and Aldi.
Yeah.
But I just remember where when Staples and Office Depot were expanding like crazy.
They're like right across the street from each other.
Yeah, and we had one downstairs at the AIM office, right? That was very handy to have. But look what's happened post pandemic.
Yeah.
Office vacancies are higher than they've ever been. So I mean, if you're not going to the office, then you don't need office supplies.
You don't need whiteout in. And what's funny is I used to go to Staples to buy my paper, and now I just order it on Amazon. It's the same price. The only difference is I have to carry like 4 reams of fancy paper from Staples to my car to my house. I order on Amazon. I just have to pick it up once when it's left at my front door. That's the only time I have to pick it up,
Oh.
And that's, I think, one of the logic of all this stuff,
Well, we use what is it, 11 by 17 paper to print the camper support here at the house on the old AIM copier.
Oh, nice!
And we print that in color. The thing is that paper size gets harder and harder to find.
Yes.
And I used to be able to order it at a reasonable price from Costco, and they discontinued it after the pandemic. And
nobody's doing newsletters anymore.
I was trying to do this where I wasn't going to pay through the nose for the paper. And the last outfit I found was the company online that had the best price. It was called Zerbe, Zerbe.
Mm-hmm.
But you know who delivered the paper? Office Depot.
Really?
To my house.
Wow.
At a price cheaper than Office Depot was charging. So I'm really not sure who's behind Zerbe, whether or not this is an offshoot of Office Depot.
Remember Jacob?
But I'm like,
yeah. I mean, if you remember Jacob Gardner, Jacob's Gardner,
oh yeah,
the office.
Yeah,
Jacob's Gardner. They did an offshoot called Pennywise.
Yeah, I remember that.
Basically, it was the same stuff you buy at Jacob's Gardner, but it was a lot less. Which, if you're Jacob's Gardner, what are you thinking? You're undercutting yourselves with Pennywise. Why would I go to Jacob Gardner if I can go to Pennywise and get the same felt tip pen for like 50 cents instead of $1.10?
Well, sometimes we used to order online from Reliable Office Supplies or Quill. They had big online operations before things got really popular.
Well, remember Jeans? They were like a retail office supply store. They were like super expensive. They're like in DC. A lot of those. One on K Street I used to go to every now and then.
The one that advertises still out there once in a while. So that WB Mason, right?
Yeah.
Really?
And I'm like, I am so perplexed as to how some of these companies survive. But I guess with all the consolidation, I mean, they've got, I guess they figured out how they've got volume business, and they've got their trucks running around town, and I'm like, if they can remain profitable, that's great.
But you should talk to Al about 11 by 17 paper, because Al can probably get you a decent deal on that.
Yeah, I should have talked to my printer about that. I didn't even think about that. So the last time I ordered several cases, figuring that we're only printing about 300 copies of 10 times a year. So I'm like, okay, I've got enough paper to last me for a while now.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and
my house serves as a mini warehouse since we print and mail the campus report out of here.
Do you still do your podcast? Your AIA podcast.
Yeah, we do that pretty much every Wednesday morning.
Yeah, so but yeah, and we're actually in X readings already. It's 8:00, Don.
All right.
So and yeah, I think we got through maybe a third of the issues.
Typical.
We talked too much about gardening and retail stuff, but I think it's important. Our audience enjoys that sort of stuff, frankly.
And I will say this thing about the actor strike too, is that, so I have the daughter of a friend of mine, someone that I know pretty well, and she had, I never really quite understood what she had when she was a teenager. She had a lot of trouble, walking. She had a disability. To the point now, I mean, now she's a young adult, in her 30s, so she gets around by wheelchair. She initially, when she moved to California, she was doing like advertising and design, graphic design. She then went into acting. Apparently that was a lifelong ambition. She's now a disabled actress.
Oh, wow.
Right? So she actually has gotten several different gigs,
wow.
Doing this kind of thing. There is,
Is she on anything we know?
Well, she had like a cameo on This Is Us, NBC's This Is Us.
Mm-hmm.
She was in an advertising campaign for, maybe, I don't know if it was Sephora or something. It was something like that, where her image was actually in their stores or whatever.
Oh, really?
So she's picked up things like this, but she's also part of SAG-AFTRA, so she's officially on strike.
Yeah. But what's funny?
She's not wealthy enough that she could afford to stay on strike very long.
Yeah. Like, is it Astra used to be their own union, correct? They used to be a separate union, Astra, before they merged with SAG.
Yeah, SAG-AFTRA. What was it? The American Federation of... Yeah.
Well, here's a funny story about AFTRA. They represent a lot of the Nickelodeon stars. And evidently, I was watching some podcast where there was some guy from some Nickelodeon random that Graham Stephan was interviewing, but he goes, we don't get any of the royalties. They don't get any royalties from any of the reruns, and they're not, he goes, that's why a lot of Nickelodeon stars are broke by the time they're like 25. Because they're not like,
we've seen a lot of stories about royalty checks to a lot of stars, and the royalties are a mere pittance for a lot of things.
Unless you got a show like the Brady Bunch where you're getting like where you're on everywhere.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think, part of this is that, at least for a lot of the early stars, right? I don't think anybody really thought about what the royalty stream would wind up being or could possibly be. So they cheated themselves out of that in a sense, and today there isn't much. If these guys have got agents, they should be negotiating good deals for them for what happens when their programs go into syndication or wherever. There should be something for that. I don't know what the net problem is there, but I don't know.
And they say,
I feel when these strikes occur, I always feel for the people downstream, because the headlines are the writers and the actors and the directors and whatever, right? But there's that other economy that runs under there, right? Which are the prop shops and the businesses that were, the catering places,
the restaurants, all of that.
There's all those other things. There's another economy going on there that basically, has no business or very little business because nobody's on the lot. People aren't working, so people aren't buying stuff they don't need. They don't need all the costumes and the props, and they don't need to eat at the restaurants.
And look at all the stuff that's happening, like downtown, right? A lot of restaurants, are closing their doors because why? Nobody's going back to work, and it's like one of my favorite bagel places in DC was Cozy's, and they're gone. There was not a single. There used to be one on every other corner in DC, Cozy's, and now they're all gone. There's one by the old Alec building on 17th Street, but it's not the same Cozy. They don't have the square bagels. They got the round bagels, and it's not. They don't have the. There's one of the things I did like on Cozy's is their ice machine did shaved ice. It was like Slurpee snow when you mix it into the sodas, which I thought was kind of cool.
So I decided to look up Cozy here. It says there's one in Washington, D.C., and there's one in Baltimore.
Yeah, the one in Washington, D.C. is right at 17th Street, right?
Yeah, what's the address of the sucker here?
It's like 17th. It's right there where Connecticut and K meet.
Yep, 910 17th Street, the bar building.
Yep, that's where Alec used to be.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Back in the days when Brad Boudelier worked there. Remember Brad was the producer for State Lines? And
there's one in Baltimore on South Charles Street. But that's an interesting one there too, because there used to be a ton of them.
Yeah. There used to be like Starbucks on every other corner,
Oh yeah, I don't know. I guess there's still corner bakeries here and there too. But
they're in bankruptcy. Corner bakery, they're in bankruptcy.
Oh, it's too bad. They're good. I like them.
Yeah, you think Panera would have bought them out or something like that? Because they're like the same place, Panera and Corner Bakery.
Yeah.
But I think Corner Bakery was a little bit more expensive than Panera.
Yeah.
And it's funny, Corner Bakery started off selling pizza, while Panera's just now added pizza to their menu.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad.
You remember when McDonald's added burritos to their menu?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the good old days when Taco Bell you could get a taco for 39 cents.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's get to final thoughts.
Yep.
We could do this all night as we've done in the past.
Well, I'll just say, like I said, I'm sorry to hear about the passing of Tony Bennett today. He was a great talent, but lived a long life at 96, so good long life. And anyway, just keep him busy. He's trying to stay cool. And like I said, battling a bout of poison ivy.
Mm-hmm. At least we're not in Arizona where it's like 114 degrees and 110 degrees.
Yeah.
And or Florida, Melbourne was in the hundreds last week. This week it's come down to like the 90s.
Yeah.
There was a Cozy's in Thurmont.
Wow.
Right.
Are we talking about the same place?
Is it the bagel shop, Susan Cozy, that was in Thurmont? Because Thurmont's like a sleepy little town.
It was called the Cozy. That was near Camp David.
Okay.
So, but that's not Cozy, COSI, the one you're talking about.
Yeah. Different Cozy, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Shamrock. I remember that. I passed that all the time on Route 15, and now they even took the sign down. You don't even see the sign for the Shamrock Diner.
Yeah.
And wasn't Shamrock's like right over right near the Pennsylvania line, if I remember correctly?
There was some restaurant up there by Thurmont area that had a room you could have a meeting to, and I was up there one time for something with Richard Delgadio.
Richard Delgadio.
The Delgadio boys.
Is he doing? Is he doing okay, Richard? I see Eugene, but I don't see Richard.
Which one didn't one of them go to jail?
Maybe. I don't think it was Eugene. Maybe it was Richard. I don't know.
I don't think he went to jail. I think Richard was just exposed for his financial finagling.
Yeah, I know. Wasn't that when he was also on the board of supervisors in Prince William County?
That was Eugene was on the board of supervisors or something.
In Loudon, he was on the Loudon.
Yeah,
Loudon.
Loudon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
He ruffled a few feathers.
Was Eugene the one that thought the Chinese were coming up the Panama Canal, or was it?
I think that was Richard. I think Richard's
Richard was big on the Panama Canal.
Yeah.
He always used to host. Always have G. Russell Evans. And Evans had written a book on the Panama Canal, and so Richard raised a lot of money about the threat to the Panama Canal.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. The old joke was, of the two of them, one's nuts and the other's plain nuts.
Yeah.
You heard that story, that joke. I don't know.
It was, it's an interesting thing though, because I mean, I'm friends with both, but I would never talk about the other, I would never mention Richard to Eugene or vice versa.
Yeah. Well, it's funny.
Because the relation, they had a terrible relationship.
Oh, they don't like each other?
No.
Eugene used to tell the story once that this guy, he heard, Eugene's name mentioned, or, and the guy grabbed Eugene and like started to get in front to fight him. And in this discussion, Eugene discovered, no, wait a minute, you're talking about my brother. They used to tell that story.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Didn't Richard used to come on to Next Revolution, not Next Revolution, what was Bill's show? Modern War?
Maybe so. Yeah.
He used to be in Modern War every now and then with Bill Lind, another character.
Yeah, that's right. Bill Lind's got a character. I read some of his stuff occasionally. He's in, I think, the American Conservative. They run some.
Really? I need to reach out to him. Maybe we should have one direct line one.
Yeah, I think it was Bill Lind.
I think Mark would flip out if we had Bill Lind.
Hey, this reminds me though. When was what was the date for Chappaquiddick?
Chappaquiddick.
That was in July of '69, right? It was.
Yeah. So we just passed the anniversary of Chappaquiddick.
Wasn't it the same day the moon landing was on the 20th?
Yeah, wasn't it like the same weekend of the moon landing or something like that?
It says July 18th and 19th here on the web. So just talking about the Delgadios, this brings back this memory that I will probably never forget.
The Mary Jo Kopechne Society.
Well, yeah, I mean, it had to do with, there was two, there was a couple of things going on there. So one is that, that was Les Kinsolving and my father and myself and Les's son. We had the Mary Jo Kopechne Memorial Society where we went up to Martha's Vineyard, right? We did that. I think we did that on the 10th anniversary of Chappaquiddick. But on the 20th anniversary of Chappaquiddick, Eugene formed the Ted Kennedy swim team.
Yeah.
And he enlisted my interns, David Almassi and several others. I think Bob actually, but I don't know if Bob was around at the time. Maybe Bob was part of that too. Anyway, it was Eugene, is the master of theater.
Yes.
In this sense.
Yeah.
He really is very good at this. So we're in DC on Capitol Hill in July on a typical hot, humid, sweltering day. And Eugene had gone and he had rented scuba gear, right, or whatever, right? He had the flip, they had the whole gear on.
Suits,
yeah. He had like wetsuits. He had 2 or 3 of them he had rented, and the idea was that he put out a press release that they were going to take a ceremonious like dip in like one of the Senate, pools or whatever they are, the things, for which the Capitol Police quickly said, no go here, but you could, you can't swim there, but you can dip your toes over here or something like that. Yeah. So I still have this memory of about 10 or 12 of us with signs. And I think Almassi actually was in the wetsuit, and the whole thing, and walking around. I think we actually walked over to La Brasserie or whatever, the restaurant that Ted Kennedy loved to frequent.
Yeah. Oh, the Monocle.
Was it the Monocle?
The Monocle, yeah.
Whatever it was. It was something on Capitol. We went over there. It was just such theater to do that. Yeah. And I mean, he got press for it. And every once in a while, Eugene and I get in contact with each other, and we just talk about that day. I mean, now I think about it, it's like 34 years ago.
I know, 34. Well,
that helped make
35.
Eugene famous. That helped put Eugene on the map, I think, is the whole Kennedy story.
Eugene is just, he's just, I think that was one of the reasons that he and Richard have a hard time, because Eugene could go and do something and would just get this press attention. Yeah. And Richard would try to do something and couldn't get the press attention that Eugene would get. Yeah. But Eugene was very theatrical. He just do these things, Supreme Court stuff or whatever. It worked.
Yeah.
Like, I always give Eugene credit for this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, next year is 35. Eugene, get ready, 35th anniversary. Now you can rent a pool on a semi.
I should get back in touch with Eugene and said, hey, it's been 35 years since we did this. You want to reprise this?
Hey, Dwight, you should send this copy to Eugene. Say, hey, your ears are burning.
I might actually be in LinkedIn contact with Eugene.
Well, Eugene, one little quick story, one of my favorite stories of him is that he's very creative, and he could also get himself, like you said, front and center. Maybe his brother didn't have the talent to do that. But there was this show, the Chris Core show, WMAL,
Chris Core show.
Afternoon show.
Yep.
I'm driving home, and I know Eugene, but I'm on the road, and all of a sudden, Eugene goes on the show. He's being interviewed. And this was when we were going after John Warner, because John Warner was a liberal sort of squish, conservative in name only. And as you know, John Warner was the former Navy secretary. And so Eugene played on that and had a little song. And it was To Anchors Away. And it was, John Warner, go away. Warner, go away. John Warner, go away, because we will never vote for you again. But
oh my gosh,
I thought it was really clever.
That has left an indelible mark on your memory.
Yeah, I remember that. John Warner, go away.
Funny, Dave.
Oh my gosh.
John Warner was the first senator I got to, meet, two, speak at GW for the College Republicans.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
I ran into it at the Visual Systems store on 19th Street.
You did what?
Actually, it was I Street then. Visual Systems, it was a drafting supply store.
Okay.
And I was there, and John Warner was there. And the only reason I recognized him because the same day Washington Post did a story on him and his ex-wife,
Elizabeth Taylor.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
he married a melon. That's where he got a lot of his money, I think. He had a wealthy wife.
Him and John Kerry, same thing, huh?
Yeah.
John Kerry married a Heinz.
Yeah.
Another.
They said that a lot of senators, they married wealthy women, and then they became.
Yes, you don't make much money as a United States senator unless you're Joe Biden.
Yeah, that's right.
Or Hillary Clinton.
That's the other thing that should be a scandal. How does someone serve 40 years, allegedly as a public servant, right, as a politician, and yet become a millionaire, have two houses? I mean, it's like that just makes me a little suspicious.
Well, I mean, it's like, look at Fauci.
Yeah.
Lifelong civil servant.
Yeah.
So any other final thoughts, Dave?
Huh? Oh, that's
any
just
other final thoughts. Oh, that's it? Okay. Done. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Well, we talked a little politics today. I mean, will there be a third party run? I mean, Joe Manchin is not really said he's going to run for Senate, re-election for Senate, but he seems to be at least toying with the idea of, using the no labels run, and maybe Huntsman will join him and things like that. I mean, he's going to face an uphill battle, I think, and to run for his seat again, because you've got Mooney and Jim Justice. I mean, there's some people that could probably knock him off there. So
maybe a swan song on the presidential run.
But
obviously the Democrats don't want to see Manchin run there. I don't know that Manchin, how much he takes away from Biden per se, because he's already been a thorn in Biden's side. But
what if it's a Manchin-Hogan ticket or a Hogan-Manchin ticket?
Yeah, I mean, Kristen Sinema, Larry Hogan. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people that go in there, I think, that that would look at that.
No labels just reminds me of, do you remember Lead or Leave, Don?
Right.
It started in 92, it folded in 95. It was led by Senator Rudman and Paul Tsongas and some guy named Rob Nelson and John Cowan, But they, that's what No Labels kind of reminds me of, because, they're really, it's like they're a little goofy. And No Labels is kind of, I mean, look at the people with No Labels. Tom Davis.
Mm.
You know, you've got, I'm surprised Michael Steele is not part of No Labels. Oh, wait, he's part of the Lincoln Project. Or as I like to call it, the John Wilkes Booth Project. And I think No Labels will be around for just as long as Lead or Leave was, frankly.
Yeah, I mean that's possible because I think there's enough frustration or disgust with kind of the either Trump or Biden that people are looking for an alternative.
Yep.
The thing is that the names that are being mentioned here to me are not necessarily the most viable alternative. It's not none of these people here, whether or not it's Hogan, Manchin, Huntsman, Cinema, whatever.
Hey, Hogan, Romney. Romney,
yeah,
Hogan.
None of these people would make much of a dent, in the voting overall.
Also, I guess it depends on the ballot access. If they can get on some state ballots, maybe they have a shot, though.
Right. The ballot access would be key there. Yeah. I mean, if they, if you only get on 10 or 15 ballots, it states, you're just not going to be able to get.
Well, it depends which 10 or 15 states they get on. They get on New York, Texas, California, Arizona, Florida, Illinois, and they win those states. They could conceivably become president.
Well, I mean, if you want to give them access to the ballot, you want to give them access to the ballot in the blue states, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So California, New York, all those New England states.
Yeah, you might siphon off enough votes in some of those states.
Yeah, if they were in Pennsylvania or Michigan, maybe so.
Yeah. Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they remind me a lot of Lead or Leave. frankly, there's not much.
No, I mean, I see your point there. I mean, that could possibly happen there. So that's one thing. Meta had launched Threads. It seems to have been petering out now. No one can figure out what they're really supposed to do on that. The timing was good in one sense when Meta launched that, as they were, with Twitter doing Elon doing his Twitter-like stuff to Twitter, but it's kind of Threads is kind of a big mess. I mean, you can't really follow certain, the people that your timeline is not chronological. It's not really all that interesting. So I think, they until they fix a ton of things, I think all that initial euphoria is wearing off very, very fast with that. So, whereas I spent some time on it at the beginning, I'm going to it maybe once or twice a week just to see if anybody else is doing anything. See a handful of conservatives.
I joined Threads when it first started, and I'm just going back right now. Not much. They're just people sending me follow requests.
Well, I mean, part of the problem too is that you have to have it. It's only mobile. There's no desktop application for it either. So it's lacking in so many areas. The question will be is that Adam Mosseri, will they be able to do things they need to do there, in time before people say forget it. I don't. This is it was interesting. We thought it had hope and possibility, but you didn't give us much, so we're going to move on. It's hard once you lose people to a social media platform. It's really hard to get them back.
Yeah.
I mean, Twitter has that problem. I mean, they chased away a lot of people with a lot of things that Musk did when he took over. Very hard for them to come back.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: we've got so many of these copycat Twitters. You've got Truth. You've got what was the one that they kind of pulled? It was like I forget the name.
Well, people media when Twitter was driving the liberals crazy, they decided, okay, we'll take on Mastodon, Yeah. So they went to Mastodon, and then Jack Dorsey, who founded Twitter, he's got the invitation only Blue Sky, right? So you've got all this stuff. I'm like, okay, look, I've got a Twitter account, I've got Facebook, I've never done Snap. I don't really care about that. I've got Instagram. How many of these things does one person really need?
Yeah.
And how much time do I really want to spend on all this? Not that much.
Yeah, what was it? Parlor that didn't take off.
Parlor.
They tried that.
Parlor, that's what I was thinking of.
I joined that, and I'm like, well, that was just a cesspool.
Yeah,
that was a right wing echo chamber.
But there was also another one. There was, and then there was also another. Gab was another one. Which unfortunately,
there's Gab and there's Rumble, I think, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And people, you have your freedom to choose whatever you want to choose.
Like, do you remember when everyone was leaving Facebook to go to MeWe? They're all back, by the way, on Facebook.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who left a lot of these things.
I went to MeWe, and I don't think I've been back there in like 3 years now, 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that when you come down to it, Facebook and Twitter have got things that they're long established, and even if there are issues that you may personally have with that, you think that they're anti-conservative or whatever, the whole infrastructure that they have is still better than what these other guys have tried. So you wind up saying like my reach and my interaction on Facebook, I can't duplicate that on Threads, and because it really is built off of Instagram. Instagram is based on short reels and pictures, and Threads is really trying to turn that into a Twitter-like text kind of format, and it's not translating very well for people who are on Instagram. They weren't. People on Instagram are used to just feeding you videos and pictures. And now you're saying, please give us some thoughts as well. That's not what those people were trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, Instagram went downhill after Facebook bought them, frankly. It was so much better.
There's so many ads in there
and
stuff like
that. I don't like Instagram anymore because there's so many damn ads on there. It's like, why would I want to be here? It's like you got a million ads, and they're all some dumb ads and stuff that I'd never buy. A lot of the stuff is that made in China stuff that good luck ever seeing if you buy it,
Yeah, well, it's like everybody's been sucked in from Temu and thinking that they're getting great deals on stuff.
But Temu, there are a lot of pictures they use are just stock pictures on there, and it's not exactly what you get. It's kind of like that joke about when you order a Klingon from Wish.com. It's like,
yeah, don't expect a lot from Temu. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. There's a good reason why.
Yeah.
So for that, a couple other things real quick. Barbenheimer this weekend.
Oppenheimer.
Not gonna see. Yeah. I'm not seeing either one. I'm not seeing the Barbie movie, and I'm not seeing Oppenheimer. So
the Barbie movie. I mean, again, it goes back to these writers need to get a better, and they need to come up with new ideas. Frankly,
it's this whole Barbenheimer thing though is crazy though. People are basically booking tickets. They're buying tickets online to go see Barbie. And as soon as Barbie's over, they're running across to the other theater to go see Oppenheimer.
So basically, the number one movie will be because I hate to say it,
they're predicting $200 million openings because of this amalgamation of having people going to see both.
I mean, here's the thing. This summer movie season has been really bad. I was disappointed by The Flash. I didn't go see The Flash. I read all the reviews, and they all said the movie sucked. It was very woke. Guardians of the Galaxy, whatever number they're on, was probably the best movie I saw this summer.
See, I just wait for it to come to streaming. I'm just too lazy to go to.
Yeah, well, I think The Flash will be on streaming in about a couple of days now.
That's a hit. The sleeper really has been, what is it? Sound of Freedom? Is that the name of the movie? I mean, $100 million at the box office.
Yeah,
kudos to them.
By the way, and Disney's bringing out the Snow White and the 7 diverse individuals.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
No. I mean, Disney is.
No, but I mean, can Disney not think of a new story?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, how about you do I think ABC had a great Snow White follow-up story. It was called The Charmings. Great little show. Was on Thursday night up against Cosby, so that's why they got canceled after 2 seasons.
Yeah.
It was kind of like Bewitched meets Snow White.
I think Disney also didn't they flop with their remake of The Little Mermaid too. I mean, I don't think that.
I wouldn't be surprised.
it didn't do too well. I think
so. They've gone very wokey. With they're changing the characters
Yeah,
on all these classics,
yeah,
and I think people, the people are starting buying it now.
I mean
yeah.
the
They're tired.
Elementals did really bad too. I think that was Pixar did Elementals or
Yeah,
Element.
they had a apparently there was a very short part in there with the non-binary character in there, and it why do you even need to bother with that? Please, I don't
Yes.
unbelievable
Yeah,
what they do.
I think that's the worst thing. If they're lazy to keep making remakes, it's a laziness issue also. But if they're going to do that, don't butcher it. Don't
And if
take
you're
a
gonna
great
remake
idea.
it, why don't you remake something like remake Space 1999? Why don't you remake what is it? What was the it's a Doyle book that they turned into a movie. They go to an island. There's like a giant crab, a giant ostrich, and a bunch of stuff like that. They meet Captain Nemo, and they leave the island in his sub. And Captain Nemo dies at the end. I'm trying to think what it is. I would say, like why don't they remake Forbidden Planet? Although they probably butcher that too.
Yeah, that's my problem with a lot of these remakes.
They could. I mean, if they want to remake something that was good. I mean, do you remember they remade Romeo and Juliet, uh, where it was like a rap opera or whatever in the '90s? Uh, what was that? Romeo Must Die. But then there was somebody that did a Romeo and Juliet. What is that? Where they gave it a happy ending instead of you know, the what do you call it? Romeo accidentally wakes Juliet up by pouring water on her face, and so he doesn't kill himself, and they end up getting married. Uh, it's like it's like look at television. They're just rebooting old shows. Like they're
Yeah,
rebooting. And like they're going to reboot Babylon 5. I think that's been shelved for now. But they don't. There's nothing. They're not creative. They're not making. I mean, they're not making movies like Ben Hur and the Ten Commandments
yeah.
and Black Hole and the Towering Inferno anymore.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's just sort
Don.
of a laziness and a lack of creativity.
Yeah.
I shudder to think of them trying to remake the Ten Commandments in this era.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be good.
Not, it would really have to be by someone like Angel Studios, beyond.
Well, NBC did redo Noah back when NBC had movies of the week, but they made Saul a contemporary of Noah. And I'm like, that's not how it goes. And I'm not even a Christian, and I know that's not how the story went. And it's like, it's not just become a money making operation for people. I think it's just that's Hey, actually, I am waiting for them to do a remake of Ben Hur. Didn't they remake Ben Hur a few years ago
I'm not
with
sure.
Russell Crowe?
News to me.
Was
I
that the
thought they did. It
Gladiator?
was like
They did
the Gladiator.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the Gladiator.
So they remade Spartacus without calling it Spartacus.
Yeah, it's just sort of a laziness, and like I said, I just fear because I think they butcher it in the remake.
And there's some great stories out there they could do. Why aren't they doing? Like there's there's great stories. Why isn't there a Cal Ripken story movie? He's got a great story to tell. Why don't we have a Peyton Manning and then the sequel Eli Manning story? Frankly, those would be great stories to tell. I wouldn't go watch them, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that would want to go see them. I wouldn't see them, but
yeah,
I'm not your average.
There's probably some at least small market for some of that.
Unless they turn Peyton Manning to a cyborg alien from another planet, and he came here to play football because he was exiled from his planet for using their version of steroids. That would be a movie I'd go see.
All right, I'll throw in one final thought before I give it over to you, Dwight, to close out. And that's just I want to congratulate one of Accuracy Media's former interns, Melinda Zosh. She has just completed her 6th year as an anchor and head of content manager at WVVA, and Bluefield, West Virginia. She's leaving that post to go to Panama City, Florida.
Oh,
Uh,
that's a nice
and
market.
it's a sister station of WVVA, apparently.
That's good.
Melinda, it was interesting. I mean, she went to Liberty University. She interned with us in 2008, then did 2009. I think it was Fund for American Studies. She did an internship
Oh,
there
really?
and all this. So she, good conservative gal. She actually took a couple years to she went up to New York and actually sold luxury automobiles, BMWs and things like that. Made good money to help pay off her student loans, but then she jumped back into journalism. She went to Montana, So after graduation, she had during the time she was in Liberty, she'd worked for the local station there, but then made her way, to New York and then to Montana, uh, and then to West Virginia, and now to Panama City. But she finished as a runner-up as the best anchor in a small market in West Virginia for the.
What was her market? Is that the Wheeling media market? Was that her? Is that?
I don't know what that. I don't know how big the market is in Bluefield, West Virginia, but it's kind of neat to see a former intern of yours, even in a small market, just kind of follow her dream and do this. So it's good to see her do that, and I wish her well as she hopefully takes the next step. Maybe this is a step away from getting an even bigger job down the line.
Well, Bloomfield, West Virginia.
I don't even know where that is.
It's near Winchester.
Okay.
So it must be like the Martinsburg media market.
Yeah. So the station she was working for was an ABC Fox station.
And it's like, there's a lot of okay. There, I had the wrong Bloomfield. That was took me to Bloomfield, Virginia. But no, this is still not. This still should take.
I thought that was always the coolest name for a town, Bluefield. I thought that was kind of cool.
Oh, Bluefield. Okay, I was putting in Bloomfield.
Bluefield, like the color blue.
Yes.
Yeah, but just right.
Like Blue's Clues. I heard they're rebooting that too.
9,658 people.
It's on the Virginia-West Virginia border. It's down in that little area.
Yep.
It's near Princeton, West Virginia. And
yeah, she met her fiance who was from Princeton.
West Virginia? Or New
York?
Yeah. Or Princeton University.
No, Princeton, West Virginia.
She's actually pretty close to Rocky Mount, Virginia.
Yeah.
Which isn't that far from Lynchburg, which isn't that far from Greensboro, which isn't that far from Durham and Raleigh. Yeah, she's trading up. Panama City is going to be a much nicer town.
She grew up in Pennsylvania, so
Philadelphia suburbs or like somewhere in the middle.
So I think somewhere in the middle. I can't remember where it was exactly, but
yeah. Well, you know what they say about Pennsylvania? You got Pittsburgh on the west, Philadelphia on the east, and Alabama in the middle.
That's right. Yeah.
What's funny is like I was actually just looking at randomly house prices in like Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, which is a suburb of Harrisburg. You get a really nice house for $450,000, brand new home.
Mm.
That's like a pretty good deal. Commute actually wouldn't be that bad, actually. But anyways, other final thoughts, Don?
That's it. Back to you.
Yeah, my final thoughts is one is a Costco's. You should definitely sponsor our show because I'm about to promote. Remember I told you I bought these? These are orange cream covered almonds. So it's a heart healthy snack too. They taste like a creamsicle with an almond. And if you had like an almond flavored creamsicle, that's what they taste like. Costco's, we're promoting you. It's time for you to pay back and sponsor our show. Let's see. Other news, everybody should save this date. October 12th is going to be our 20-year salute to Governor Bob Ehrlich, Maryland's favorite former governor, former Republican governor, I should say.
Yep.
And it's going to be great. It's going to be at the BWI Hilton. It's going to be an awesome event. And keep an eye on your emails because you guys going to be getting an email in the next few days about the Orlick dinner. And thank you, Susan. That's a cookie jar. And thank you. Let's see. And the other thing is knock on marble. NASA's new website will be launched this week. I tell you, they're treating these website launches like they would treat a rocket launch. Oh my God, we got to abort. I mean, they had the beta site live, and then I get a call from James. They want to pull it. There's some issues with the file. I'm like, leave it up there, the beta site. For crying out loud. It's like, why do you have to pull it from the public view? It's not like people are going to die. It's not like it's going to go up and crash. The whole internet's going to get destroyed because of a coding error on NASA, the new NASA.gov. But God willing, next week it'll be live at some point. NASA, the only federal agency that does really good stuff. Frankly, it is not bloated with a bunch of overpaid bureaucrats. Really hardworking, good people at NASA. Other final thoughts is we're almost in the month of August, so it's time for my Florida days. I'll be down there for the month of August, so we'll be doing the beachside shows, which are always a lot of fun. Starting middle of August, I should say. And actually, middle of August. And then we'll be, it'll be a good show. And that's about it. Also, if you are listening, go to MontgomeryCountyRepublicClub.com and sign up for our newsletter. We got some great stuff in there. There's a great article on our website right now about the moon landing and how STEM education got us there. So check it out. And for everyone, good night. Good night, everyone.
All right.
All right. Good night, guys. Great seeing you.